Hi, I'm Chantel, and this is the Steps Together podcast. And we have Billy Moore here today. Welcome, Billy Moore. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Billy, what were you like as a child growing up in Liverpool?
For me, growing up was quite lonely. I was the oldest out of six, and I always was looking for approval and to be acknowledged by my dad. You know, and it was never for forthcoming because he was always like dismissive and drinking and never have any time. So he was never like a role model. You know, there was so I felt quite lonely and I felt sort of detached. And the older I got, the more siblings that came about. You know, I felt I felt like I was an outsider looking in on someone else's family, and that I didn't belong. And I was always told, you know, I was you know, son of mine, and I consistent to believe I was of no value. I was not going to amount to anything, you know. And I had all these I'd call them, like, now I know them, like adverse childhood experiences. So for me, the contributing factors of me growing up as a child led to who I became, you know, going forward in life. So life was quite, growing up for me in Liverpool was quite like lonely and fearful, you know. My dad used to hit me a lot. And I got to a point where I didn't, like, I don't know what the state is the right word, didn't mind getting hit. It was when. So it was like standing in a corner with your hands on your head and your dad walking up and down, pacing the living room floor. And then you're flinching. And I used to think, just do it. You know, that was the worst kind of fear, you know, I'd ever experienced as a child growing up. I just do it and I know it's done. But like when you're expecting it, it was, yeah, so it wasn't a very nice childhood. You know, that was my memories of that.
It sounds like you was on quite high alert then when you was a child.
So,
Yeah. Wow. I heard on a podcast that you did, I think it was earlier this year, that your dad was sitting in the house getting bevied all the time. He was on the ale. How did this impact you growing up?
It was like, you know, I was very clean and very hygienic. And my dad, right, would have a chair like this, yeah, and he'd have a TV set right in front of him. We never had a remote control, so he'd turn the TV over with his toes. That's how we used to turn the telly over. He'd have his cans here, his ashtray on the arm of it. It was full of cigarette stumps, it was full of ash. 90% of the time he'd miss the ashtray and it'd be on the floor. So it was like, I used to walk in and go, I was disgusted at like what he was, you know what I mean? I was thinking, he's a tramp, he's a proper scruff, you know, and you know, the rest of the house is spotless because my mum was really clean, but his little area was just like filth. He'd make paper origami, like elephants, and just throw them about and little paper crap, and I don't know, yeah, so.
Did you think that was like, had a big impact then, and then it lead into other events that happened in your life then?
What it did, it was the atmosphere in the home was quite thick. It was, you could, you know, you could cut it with the proverbial, you know, razor blade. It was that thick, and the violence and the anger, and him as a person, you know, now I know he was going through his own stuff, but at the time, he was just like an angry man. Drank a lot of alcohol, smashed the house up, threw his dinner at me mum, you know, beat me ma up. And it was only me that took the brunt of it as one of the kids. You know, I was the oldest and I was the one getting good items off him while the rest of my siblings were like just like cowering, but not getting it. So it was quite sad to see them all looking at me, and yeah, it was, I think what made me like going out the house was like a relief. Standing on the streets was you know, a bit of solace, a bit of freedom, you know, and that's what happened. It was like bad company starts corrupting good character, because I believed there was a good person in the box that wanted to impress him and this and that, and you know, then I started mixing with you know, other kids on our estate. and you know, there was 2 paths, I went down the wrong one.
Was you trying to like find your own tribe, I suppose?
I don't know what I was trying to find, to be fair, because I had a brother who was very popular, a year younger than me, and people would be knocking at the door and going, I'd answer it and go, is your Tony coming out? Oh, yeah. And hey, and then again, is your Kelly there? No one had ever knocked for me. So I was the original Billy No Mates, you know, and I felt really like there was something wrong with me. I thought, you know, I know now it's like the self-obsession, you know, I always felt that there was something different about me. I couldn't fit in, I couldn't be a friend, and it was years later when I went to a meeting and I was saying I couldn't be a mate to anyone, and someone said to me, I couldn't find any friends, and he said, well, why are you going out searching for friends? Why don't you just be one to someone instead of trying to find one? Because that's what I used to always do, try and find friends. Just be a friend, and I didn't know how to be one. I thought you had to find one, and so yeah, I felt like very, very lonely as a young kid.
How do you think as a young kid, as a teenager, your family, your loved ones would have described you?
I'd say as an early teenager, 13, 14, very motivated. Boxing wise, I was training on a regular basis, 3-4 times a week. I'd do runs without being asked to, you know, so I'd be jogging to the lighthouse and speaking back home off my own back. Yeah. I was very disciplined. I was going to bed early, I was up early. You know, go to school, although I didn't fit in school, I didn't really get on well because my dad put me in a school out the area and it was a bit of a distance, and you know, I got targeted because of where I came from, like the postcode, which was a struggle. So yeah, kind of like I was just a loner. That's the only thing I can say about myself. I never had like friends. I had associates, accomplices, acquaintances. No one was ever a friend. There was no friendships. I used to go to a few of the boxers that I sort of befriended, but it was more because of what we were doing. It wasn't, we had nothing in common apart from the boxing, you know.
When you, so from that point then, where did addiction come into this? At what point do you remember?
At what point? I remember being right now, my addiction started, and I always had to really think back about this. My addiction started when my mother's sister, Frances, used to come to our house, and she was an alcoholic, right? And she'd have these tablets called samazepam, right? And she gave me one once, right? It was like, they were eggs, the band now.
How old were you?
I was about 9, right? Yeah, I remember it gave me one. It was like a 10, little, I think it was a little yellow one or a green one. I can't remember the colour of it. There was yellow and greens. I think the greens were lower than the yellows. And she said, take one of them, you'll be all right. She was pissed, you know what I mean? I took one and I had this like wobble. It was nice, and I was walking around the house, just wobbling. And then when she came down on a regular basis, I'd steal them, started to steal them, and then it was volume, and then it stopped for a long time, you know, because she went, it was only when she was there that I'd go for it, but then I think that sort of triggered that escapism, and I wasn't too keen on smoking, so people who were smoking weed, and you know, it wasn't really my cup of tea. But then it started with like gas and, you know, air fresheners and air sprays, anything I could just change the way I felt. Sit in the room on my own, spraying these inhalants, and then you know, that eventually led to standing on corners smoking cannabis, LSD, and then not long after that, 16, 17 years old, I was taking heroin. Yeah, so I think it was 16 when I started. I think I took methadone at 15 and then took heroin at 16. I was given methadone by a cousin because he didn't want to give me a go of his heroin. So he gave me 15 mils of methadone.
Wow. Well, how did you feel in that moment when he gave you that?
And I was like, I took it and I was thinking, nothing's happening. You know, the instant the instant gratification. I was like, there was nothing happening. And it wasn't until the next day that I felt it, which was quite odd. So it wasn't like an hour or 2 hours, it was like, you know, I've gone through the whole day, went to bed and woke up and I was in, you know, that was horrible feeling of it all. So yeah, I wasn't too keen on that.
So tell me where it went from then?
It went from like straight into, as soon as you pick up heroin, for me, it was more that addictive personality. And I've always said this, like I've got you know, an allergic reaction to drugs, and I don't break out in lumps and bumps. I break out in pain, misery, loss, years of separating myself from society. You know, running around my community with the wind blowing through my soul, just trying to find something to change the way I feel. And it was just a constant, ongoing chase for the next one. And always trying to find it, and you know, ways and means to get more. And then crack came on the scene, you know, and that was another drug that took me to a different level. So they were the combination, heroin and crack cocaine, for years. You know, for a long time, that was the go-to drug. You know, anything else was just a head change, like a spliff. I wasn't really too keen on tablets or anything like that. I would take them if I did have, like, my drug of choice. That soon became, you know, a drug of no choice.
When you first, for example, tried crack, did somebody come and offer you that, or did you think,
Do you know what, I'll tell you a little story. The first time I tried crack cocaine was on Granby Street in Toxteth. Now, Granby Street is very, very notorious, right? It's a no-go zone back in, you know, the late 80s, early 90s, and we were buying heroin off this tomboy she was dealing. And we went there one day, I was with this girl, it was a codependent relationship, it was one of those chemical romances, you know, we're together because we've got, you know, a common interest and it's drugs. And, you know, we bought our heroin, we had a little bit more money than we did usually, and this girl said, look, do you want to buy some crack cocaine? Like, what is it? We don't know what it is. We bought it without getting sort of like a direction about to smoke it or use it or anything. So we got it and go, okay, so what do we do with this? We took it home and we were just looking at it and was thinking, how do we, what is it that we do? We'd had a brief description. Oh, you get a bit of foil, you put the holes in, and you put a bit of ash, and then you it's like, okay. Did you hear that? Because I didn't hear really much. And we tried it. We failed. Didn't get a hit out of it. So it was like, but that was a waste of time. I never went back for it for about a year. You know, but it exploded not long after. And then when we did actually get the right kind of like manual to use in a way, it was boom, that was it. So that was a different kind of ball game.
Okay, so you was in the grip of addiction then at this point then? And then did you go into treatment? Did you go into rehab?
I think it was 17 years old when I first went into it. It was called the Countess of Chester, right? It was in Warrington, it was a clinic. You had to go and get a tick every day. Ring up this drug agency every single day. And I was ringing her up because my mum was on my case. When are you going to stop? Soon. What's wrong with you? I don't know. You know, have you had enough? Yeah. You know, that was just simple answers, you know. I mean, when my mum goes, what's wrong with you? I don't know, you know what I mean? Because I didn't know. She said, you need help, and okay, so I'd ring this drug agency up, get a tick every day. And I managed to get so many ticks that it was my turn to go in. You know, I'm not really prepared. I'm 17, 18 years old, going into this clinic, and it was a reduction on methadone that they gave us. Some people were on naltrexone, so they were walking around with nappies on. It was a proper, like, old school, like, detox. I think I was in there with a lad from out of state as well, and it kind of, I think it managed a week of like the first night I couldn't sleep. It was like, oh, I'm getting off, can't do this, you know what I mean? The withdrawals were kicking in, so we both like we we all had a drug test the next day, like the whole group of us, I remember it, and we came back like with amphetamines in our urine. I was like, what's going on here? Because we knew we hadn't touched anything. I knew we hadn't touched anything, but we'd all had this drink that someone had been out and come back on home leave and brought this drink back, and we all drank it, just Coke really, or lemonade or something. So we all failed this test, and he said, we'll give you another chance. But we'd already made our minds up. We said, right, put off anyway. We don't want another chance. I just want to go. You know what I mean? That was just an excuse. So we went, and yeah, that was the first kind of sort of treatment organisation or facility I ever went to. It was 17, 18, and I never went back to another one until I was about 30.
Really?
So yeah, I was on like 12 years then. Straight run, either in and out of prison, not knowing a way out, not ever hearing the words recovery. No one ever, even then I was in that clinic, no one said there was any kind of recovery. You detoxed and then you were gone.
So how many times were you in prison between that time then, until you were 30?
I don't know, I totaled it up. I think it's done a total of like 19 years behind the cell door in different stages of me addiction. Like 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 18 months, 12 months, 3 years. And then when you know, the totality was like 18 years. So by the time I was 30, I think I just finished a 4-year sentence before I went into this new way of life. But I'd probably done about 7 years in prison. So half of the time spent, probably more, because I didn't spend much time out. Because when you're an addict and you're in the grip of addiction, freedom kind of eludes you. You know, it's getting and using and finding ways and means to get more, and you know, you go into any lengths and the consequences are quite severe, and you know, you end up in prison, but I used in prison as well.
Oh, just about to ask. That was my next question. Yeah, so you didn't stay clean then through prison? No.
There was nowhere. There was the only time I ever sort of found myself clean was when it was forced on me. Yeah. When there was nothing there. It wasn't like because I wanted to.
Was you offered support in certain prisons?
No, I think they said something called like the carrots workers. They were like a civilian. They used to come round with a clipboard and a pen and have a little chat with you, and I just take no notice. Yeah. It was like, what do you want, mate? You know, are you going to get us a cup of tea or what? You know what I mean? You're going to have a little chat. Oh yeah, I know I'm on drugs. There was never anything other than that. So the carrots, I can't even remember what that meant now. But it's C-A-R-A-T, it must be it was some kind of title for something. Yeah.
So you decided to move to Thailand, is it in 2005? Is that when it was?
Yeah, 2005.
Yeah. To seek a new way of life. Yeah. Is that right? So you gain a period of sobriety. What do you think then led you to relapse?
Oh, I know exactly what led me to my relapse. So, kind of the complacency. You know, I've got clean. I've took enough on board to know that there's a new way of life. I understand that like honesty and integrity and all that is a must, and acceptance is the key to staying clean. But I didn't account for like meeting like someone from the opposite sex and falling in love and like dealing with like those kind of emotions. Yeah. Clean, you know, the rejection, the pain, the loss, the hurt. And when I did meet like the wrong people who couldn't even speak English, by the way, and the relationship was based on a dictionary, and you're trying to communicate and you find out she's with someone else and it's okay because that's in their culture, and you know, it's not like that where we come from, and I'm confused and baffled and I'm hurt, and I'm trying to salvage this relationship, which is just like, it's not what it is. I've got this hole in my heart which is like just screaming for like some kind of relief, and I remember fighting with it, like, because I was 3 years, give or take, clean, abstinent by this time. I was like, so I'd had enough. I think most of it was like, it's just holding on to your life. I ended up going to like recovery program meetings and turning up late and leaving early and not listening, you know, and looking around and seeing who was there and what was on the agenda. And I think my first addiction was comparison. I started to compare myself to other people, compare what they had to what I didn't have. I would compare my bus pass to someone's car. Oh, how come he's got a car and I've got a bus pass? You know what I mean? How come he's been on holiday and I've just left, you know, the front room? You know, and kind of like, I couldn't kind of get my head around that. You know, you got to put one step in front of the other before you reach those goals.
Yeah. So what happened then? Can you talk to me about, so when you did relapse in Thailand, what did that lead to?
That led to total kind of destruction. I mean, the relapse was sat at a bar. I remember it really well. Sat at a bar with all these feelings going on. And I looked up and I thought I wanted a brandy because that was my go-to in my using, a brandy and coke. But they didn't have brandy for some reason in Thailand, that's all. They just had whiskey. And I thought, oh, I'm not too keen on whiskey. But I'll get one anyway. And I got it. And I sat there and I was staring at it. And I was watching the ice melt and it dripping. It was like slow motion. And I knew, you know, every fibre in my body was screaming, just drink the whiskey. And the fuckets were coming in. And it was like, it'll take away the pain. But then it was like, but you know where it's going to take you. And it was the argument was going on, you know. And I lost the argument. And, you know, I took that drink and I felt the heat go down. And that was it. It was like, I'll be honest, it was like a pot boiling, and it just started to simmer. It just went, everything just went, and I felt so relaxed, and like it was a relief, and I thought, wow, you know, because the tension and the build up to it, and the relapse was powerful, but then I took it and it was like, I've done it. Yeah. What's next? And I rang someone up and said, look, let's get some cocaine, because I didn't want to go straight to the hardcore drugs that I thought I could control it. I'm in control, by the way, you know what I mean? My first relapse, I know what I'm doing. I'll manage this. One's too many and 1,000's never enough. No, it's not for me. I'll just go for that. Just go and have a party. So that was the idea. And I'll tell you what, the next day I was smoking China White, like the purest form of heroin you could get on the planet. And methamphetamine. So within 12 hours of having that drink, I was on a motorbike with this friend who was relapsed with me, and we were heading to Burma, and we were in it's called Myanmar. We went to Myanmar, and we were across the border, and we were buying China White from the Burmese, and then smuggling it back to Thailand, you know, on motorbikes for our own personal use. And the fear of that as well was another, took it to another level. So yeah, that's how quick it descended. It was like it took me to, from a drink, boom.
Yeah, it's quite scary, isn't it? Yeah. How quickly it can get you.
Yeah, it was no dipping your toe in the pool and going, oh, I'm a little bit wet there, I'm going to get out of that pool for a bit and dry off. Yeah. It was like, I'm going to go in with something tied to my ankle that weighs a ton and sink to the bottom until those chains of, you know, being cut off. So
you're at this point now. How long did you stay in that period for? Until
it was like quite drastic, really.
Was you living on your own?
Do you know what? Like, my life prior to that relapse was like, you could just say it was absolutely incredible. You know, I was like Sylvester Stallone's stuntman on Rambo 4, right? It's like, how does that work? Oh, you've gone from prison roofs and prison riots and addiction and council estates to being Sylvester Stallone's stuntman in Thailand on Rambo 4. Wow. Right? You've gone from that clean. And then the movie ended and they all went back, and this is the relationship and the breakup. And, you know, I was working for the school as well. I was a teacher in, you know, I took a course in teaching English as a foreign language. So I had all the qualifications. I had a degree that I bought that was a black one, like, but online. But it, like, kind of, they didn't really ask about that. They just wanted, it just added to sort of what I needed, the CV. And so the life was great. So to descend from that drink, you know, you've got to remember, like, I've had Hollywood, teaching, everything behind me, recovery, clean, not using, that drink, over a breakup with a girl, smash, I'm in Burma, I'm on China White within 12 hours. So yeah.
That sounds crazy. Yeah. Exhausting.
Yeah, and it kind of went on for about, I think I managed about 6 months. Really? Using before I got arrested. Because it was a bit of a different scenario. You're not like on the radar like you are in the UK. Over there, you know, you can kind of blend it because you're a tourist and you can get away with it. And that's what I did. And then I was buying like methamphetamine, yaba tablets, you know, for my own use. And then someone said, why don't you sell them to the foreigners if I can supply you them, because they'll speak to you and they won't speak to us. And the communication barrier is a bit difficult and you can be the middleman. And I kind of did. It was like, you know, I was my own best customer, because I was like, it wasn't sort of never for financial gain. It was never going to be like, I'm going to have a house, a car, a boat. It was more, I want to fund the habit that I've developed over in a foreign country. So that 6 month period was just like absolutely insane, absolutely crazy.
So you ended up in prison. So tell me about that. How did that come around?
Well, the consequences of like the addiction and the lifestyle I was living was bound to kind of happen, really. It always has. It kind of repeats itself. It's like that saying that Einstein, you know, repeat. You know, we keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. But you know, for me, it was like I was doing the same things as I was doing here, but I was doing it in a different country. And you know, it came about by. I think it was like, because I was selling yaba, I was boxing at the same time, I was fighting, I was competing in Muay Thai competitions. In the end, I was fighting for like a room, you know, to survive, to feed myself. You know, the meagre amount of drugs that I had, I'd use, and I'd sell a few to the boxers. And sometimes they'd ask me for like drugs on tick, like pay you next week or whenever. And I got to a point where I was saying no. And I knew, you know, this guy took a resentment to me, and I left a pair of shoes in his tuk-tuk and he phoned me up, and we didn't really get on. And he phoned me up one morning and I was half asleep, I still had cornflakes in my eyes, like, you know, like, trying to wake up. I've answered the phone. He went, Billy, I have your shoe, I bring them, where are you? Without thinking, I told him what apartment I was in, because I didn't tell anyone. But I told him where I was, because he was going to drop them off. I didn't want to walk around with a pair of sandals on all day. And he had a pair of Zanies of mine, so I put the phone down, I looked around the room, and I had like a gun, I had stun guns, I had weapons. It was like an armory, right? Because I became really paranoid. I had a room full of weapons and no enemies. And the only enemy was me. You know, I was my biggest enemy. And there was drugs, I had cannabis. I remember I had about just under an ounce of cannabis in eight deals of Thai stick weed, all wrapped in cling film, and a load of tablets, yaba tablets. And someone went, no, something not going right here. Why does he rang me? Started waking up a little bit and thinking, why is he rang me? Why is he offering? You know, what's his agenda? And immediately just knew that there was something really suspicious about it, you know, just internally. Went to my apartment door, opened it up and looked out, and I seen 4 armed men running up the stairs. They weren't dressed as police officers, they were nondescript. And I knew straight away that they were police. I knew straight away, I thought, these are police, he's got me nicked. Slammed the door, looked around, grabbed the drugs, started plugging the tablets where the sun doesn't shine. I had these Speedos on for some reason. I don't know why. I woke up with a pair of red Speedos on. I didn't even know where I got them from. I was like baffled, right? But I was made up because they were dead tight. And I threw all these little deals of eighths of weed quickly in these shorts. I had a pair of shorts on over them. And then sat with me back against the door, panicking. And I heard bam, 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 bam. I went, oh, who was it? Because there was no window or nothing to escape. And I was on the top floor. And they went, please. I knew it was the police, but I was still stalling. I don't know why I was stalling, because there was nothing I could do. Everything was gone. I said, could you throw me a card ID or something under the door? And this card slid under, and I looked, and it, Somcam, whatever his name was, Thailand police. Pushed it back under, and I thought, just open the door. I knew the gun was there, there's nothing I could do. And that was the fear I had, was like, the gun's there, the stun gun, the knives, the this, the that, a couple of phones, the drugs are all concealed, they're going to arrest me for the gun. They come in, manhandled me, had me on the floor, handcuffs behind my back, spitting machine guns high at me. I couldn't understand the word that was getting said. They were picking items up and, you know, smacking me about the head with it. Putting all this stuff out the room in bags, holding it up, and then put me in the back of this police van and took me to Chiang Mai Central Police Station. Put me in a cell. Firstly though, I'll tell you this, like, I was speaking to one of the guys in the back with my hands behind my back, and I said I need to go to the chemist because I had an injury on me, the left side of me. I come off a motorbike a couple of months before. I had a really bad injury in Laos. The motorbike I was on, I'd been hit by 2 bikes and I was on it. The bike went in the air, it landed on my chest, the handlebar went right through my stomach. It crushed me ribs, punctured me lung, and I got rushed to an hospital in Laos in a wheelbarrow by this Irish guy with blood swilling everywhere, and I couldn't breathe, and I was on the floor in this third world hospital, couldn't breathe at this stage, with 1,000 Yaba tablets, which is about, it was a life sentence in my pocket really. I bought them over in Laos because it was cheaper, and I remember lying there, and these two soldiers, walking through the door with AK-47s with banana clips with sellotape, you know, like that, and they looking at me, and I was like, how did he know? Like that, I was thinking, how did he know I've got drugs? Did he know? That was what was going through my mind. Not that I was dying. And then he took a camera and took a picture of me and then just walked off. And then I got pushed onto my side, and a rib must have come out, and I had a breath of air, and I said to this guy, get me out of here. Right? And he took me to his apartment. I was in a bad way. So when I got arrested, I had these scars on me, which I still got, and I said, I need to go to the chemist. So the police officers took me to the chemist before the police station, and I knew this chemist, right? I knew this chemist sold methadone, right? Xanax, Samazepam, Valium, they're all painkillers, the lot. And I had a couple of $1,000 on me, and I said, I want this, I want that, I want that. It was like a shopping list of what I wanted. So they give me like 300 mils of meth concentrated, like the heavy stuff over there. And a bag of that, I had Xanax and everything else, some Valium, everything in this bag. And the police officers got hold of it, and I'm in the bag. I said, okay, so they'll distribute that when I need it, you know what I mean? Because I didn't want to go into a detox or withdrawal whilst I was there. And when I got into they put me into the cell, they took the cuffs off me. He just put the brown bag of drugs through the caged gate and passed me. And I was like, because I don't think he had any idea what it really was, you know what I mean? He thought he's gone to a chemist, he needs his medications, but I will give him it. And I was like, oh yes, he's like, bang, drank a bit of that. I had these methamphetamine tablets, I got them out. There was 2 sides in there. Paraphernalia comes out of nowhere. If you want to use, you're going to use. They're going to bring out. There was a lighter, a bit of foil. We ended up smoking these tablets. I went for me fingerprints. By this time, because the tablets and the methadone was kicking in, by the time I got back, I sat down, I woke up 18 hours later with all the tablets gone. Right? These 2 ties sitting there like meerkats. Denying that he's used them. I think he left me one. But yeah, and I was just grateful that they never took anything out the bag, you know. But that was my initial kind of experience of going into a cell, and then he transported me to the prison, and it wasn't until 3 months later that I found out what I was charged with, and it was handling a stolen mobile phone. And I was like, oh, it's right. I was thinking, where's the gun? Didn't find any drugs, obviously. They're not going to find nothing. Where's the gun? Where's the weapons? And that's the but I was thinking that's going to be the severity of it. But in Thailand, possession of a gun, loaded, you know, the maximum they give you was 9 months. And what had happened is because it was new, they took it, kept it themselves. The weapons, they weren't really bothered. But that phone, handling a stolen mobile phone, I thought, okay, I'll be gone. Went to court, they went 3 years. I was like, what? 3 years? He said, yeah, it's quite severe over there, this kind of crime, handling stolen goods, because I was okay. I was shocked. I didn't know that until I went downstairs. Because they all put you in the dock at the same time. So there's about 20 of you getting sentenced all at once. So go, blah, 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 more, bang, you're gone. What did he say? What was that? And then I went back, I was scratching my head. How long did I get? What happened there? No one's telling me. The embassy couldn't understand what was going on. So it was like a couple of days later. But he said, yeah, you've been given 3 years. I said, when's my release date? We don't know. Yeah.
Your head must have just been going crazy at that point when he said 3 years.
Spinning. Yeah. Spinning. But I've always, like, my first introduction into the prison was, like, really shocking because it was 80 to a cell. I'd say the cell was, like, I'd say half the size of this room. And you go in a bit longer, wooden floor, no beds, just a blanket if you had one, a hole in the ground, as it's sort of 2 holes actually, a bin that was full of water that everyone used to brush their teeth, wash, ablutions, toilet, the lot out of this one bin. So it was just filth, it stunk. And I had to lie and sleep next to a guy who died, you know, the night before, and a lady boy called Tiffany who had the top on that said no money, no honey. I always remember that, like I said, because it never go, no money, a boot tube, no money, no honey, with these big pair of breasts, and I was like, and like a pretty pure man's face. And I thought, oh, this is really, like, odd, you know what I mean? Surreal. Yeah, it was like, wow. But yeah, he became a good friend of mine, to be fair, you know what I mean?
How did the other prisoners treat you?
I think it was more like disdain. You know, how dare you come over to our country, commit crime. Yeah. You know, that attitude initially. So I felt like it's really separate. Yeah, there was no way initially. And because I couldn't understand Thai very well at all, I'd react. There was never any kind of relationships, the reactionships. It was always like kicking off, and you know, anything they said, it kind of came out like with venom. Yeah. You know, that's what I heard.
Did you have any, like, I suppose, like, friends? Did you have any, like, closer connections with certain people in there, or did you just kind of keep yourself to yourself?
No, there was a few foreigners in there, a couple of Australians, a couple of English guys, but they were very, very different from me. Didn't get on well with them. Ended up fighting with a couple of Australians and an Iranian on the first day that I was there. Got battered. Really? Yeah, I got beaten up really bad because I was trying to I was like a rebel without a cause. I was trying to defend like this American guy called John, who in the end caused more problems for everyone than I could realise. You know, that was my, because I thought he was a bit older, you gotta kind of look after him. You're quite young and you're quite fit, you can kind of deal with this, but no, I didn't get on with him. No.
Were you using at this point in there? Could you get hold of drugs?
Initially, no, and I panicked. Yeah. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? And then I met this Australian. He was talking about the tramadol tablets that you could get them. You know, they didn't really have anything opiate based apart from them, the synthetic opiates. You don't need, you know, and the lady boys could get them, and the medics, because the medics are all like corrupt. You could buy them if you had a bit of cigarettes and stuff like that. So he ended up getting me a strip at 10, and I wasn't really too keen on him out there, but I took them inside and he helped. And then it was like 10 of them a day, you know. So yeah, the drugs in there weren't as much coming, so it was like quite a long time in and out of not having them and having them at the same time.
Do you feel at that point though it was getting you through?
But the drugs,
Mm.
it was always something to look forward to. So if someone said, yeah, I've got something for you, then your whole day was like, yeah, by the time, 5 o'clock comes, so you got through that day just to get what you needed. Then you get what you needed, then it was always on the hunt for something else, the day after,
What was the main turning point for you then to try and get out really? What was it? What was the turning point for you?
I think after a couple of years of being in there, it was like, I went from Chiang Mai Central Prison to Bangkok, which is a 1,000-kilometre journey, which was horrendous, because they took me out of a hospital. I'd had surgery on my side. It's like the second time I'd had an operation in a Thai prison. And I was sat on this bus with this bottle with a plastic tube draining fluids out of my stomach, with no sandals on my feet, just white, just pale because I was that ill. With a bus with about 40 people on it, like an open bus, sort of with a cage on top of it, so everyone can watch it going past it. It was like you'd go 1,000 kilometres, sorry, in that. And they were defecating in bin bags and peeing in bottles, and there was a couple going to the big tiger. They were on death row, so there was 2 guards with shotguns at the end of the bus in these seats, and it was just like looking around thinking, this is what it's come to. This is the end of the road, you know what I mean? And I got to this prison, and in Bangkok, drugs were a bit more like easy to get than they was in Chiang Mai. China White, it was more crystal meth there, to be fair, and ice, they call it. So yeah, I think it got to a stage where I was using, whilst I was in Bangkok, I was getting myself in debt, and I was getting threatened with HIV infected syringes made out of barrows, improvised pens into needles, full of blood by, this gang called the Samurais, who were all MCK'd, and they were on AIDS treatment, and they had the monopoly on one part, and then there was gangs that side. Then you had the Nigerians, and then there was a fallout with these 2 Thais, Southern Thais and Northern Thais and Central Thais, and one of these young Thai lads, I remember him, 25 years old, was running past me, and I remember this quite well. He was running past me, screaming, with this guy behind him who had a knife. Like, it wasn't a blade, it was a proper knife. And as I'm standing there watching him run past, this guy, out of the corner of my eye, ran forward with a chair, like a metal school chair with a piece of wood on it, the metal ones, and just whacked him right across the head. And he hit the floor. And then this guy, was right on him then with this knife, and he was just stabbing him, but it was that slow and cold and calculated, and it was like they were proper death shots, like in the neck and in the chest and in the back of the legs and everywhere. It was just like, but it was sinking right in. You could hear it squelching. It was like, and it was quite horrible because it was in slow motion, and I was watching it, and it must have been about 50 shots, 50 hits in him, and the crowd that surrounded him was 30, 40 people, and I'd learned a bit of Thai by this time, and I knew it was like I heard them shouting, "Come on, come on, come on," and I knew that was just kill it. It wasn't a human, it was just kill it. Whatever he'd done, I don't know. It was probably drugs or phones or something. It always is. And they just left him in this pool of blood, and it was the inhumane screams. They were coming from the very depths of his bowels. I've never heard nothing like it, and it was frightening. And I could see all this going on. Like I think it was shock, obviously, because it was all slow. And then after it all finished, I felt really guilty that I didn't step in and intervene. And then I thought to myself, this is not my problem, this is a Thai problem. If I'd have intervened, I could have been on the receiving end of these gangs and this knife, and I'd go back to me cell and I'd replay It was like for weeks. I'd lie there overnight and I wouldn't speak to anyone, and I'd replay this like a video in my head, just repeating the same like reel. This experience was going on every single night, and I owed money to these same gangs, and they kept coming up to me, threatening me, and I was like, I think it was about 11,000 baht, which wasn't really that much, but it was a lot in prison. And I never had it. And I was zigzagging and hiding and avoiding and promising, and you know, they were making threats constantly. And then this Christian missionary came up and I pleaded and I begged her to help me, and I said, look, I can't, I'm going to die here. And she'd come up to see me in Chiang Mai, and she was like, what's going on? So I told her, I was like, oh. So she helped cover this debt. So it was clear, it was fresh, and he kept away from me. But then he had nothing. I had no food, and I'd just walk around aimlessly without drugs, because no one was going to give me none. I didn't want to go through that again. And I'd see these Muslims eating food, and you know, I was hungry all the time because I was eating rice, just the same stuff, rice and prison food, which was horrible. You know, it smelled, and it was really disgusting. And they said, do you want to sit with us one day and you know, and break bread with us? And I was like, yeah. Delighted, you know, it was a joy to the stomach as well as the heart. Sat down. He said, will you pray with us? I was okay, and I was like, pray like this. You know, we do it like this, you know, alhamdulillah. So I started a prayer that day with them, ate the food. I said, I'll be back tomorrow. And he said, really, only the Muslim brothers eat here. We invited you because, you know, it's just kind of a gesture of, you know, what we do. So the next day I had a sarong on and a skull cap, and my name was Yusuf Muhammad, and I sat with them and he didn't bat an eyelid, and I learned how to speak Arabic, and I learned how to do the Fajr, and you know, I'd done a Shahada. So I was like, then he moved me into the cell, and I was doing like Friday Juma and praying 5 times a day, but I was getting fed. Wow. I was getting fed. And what it was like unity, collectively as a group. I was okay. I wasn't using, I felt safe, I was eating well, I was keeping the engine room alive. This was the survival, you know, coping mechanism that I had going on. And that kind of, I managed to go through that till the end of the sentence, you know, and then I got transferred back to the UK on a repatriation to Wandsworth prison in March 2010. And the day I was going, the whole of Bangkok went up in flames, right? They blew it up. They were getting bombs. There was fires all over the city, so they cancelled my flight. Right, this is worldwide news at the time in 2010, because they burnt all the airports and everything. I was like, this is because, you know, I'm going home. Do you know? You know, it was like the red party. They call it red and the yellow party. There was killings, there was murders, there was fights, there was wars, it was just horrendous on the streets of Bangkok at that, and it went on for like a while, but like within like a couple of weeks I was back on. So they had me out, and 2 prison officers came over to pick me up from Wandsworth prison, took me to immigration, and then transferred me back to the UK. On a 12-hour flight on the BA.
So how long in total then was you in prison for from that point? So from Thailand?
I'd say 5 years.
And then to Wandsworth?
Yeah, because I got a 3-year sentence, which like kind of went on, because I went to Wandsworth and stayed there as well. And I was like, am I out soon or what? We don't know, because we don't know what your release date is, which is an EDR, which is an early related release date. I was like, because Thailand won't communicate with us. Oh, right. There's a lot of red tape. We've got to go through this. There's no, you know, we can't even understand what's getting said. And so it was like another 9 months, and I should have been out way before, you know. So I think I went there, and it was at the end of the year that I was released in 2010.
2010. Yeah. Then what happened after that then? So you come out of prison. So you've got your. So how did the book come across? So the Pray Before Dawn.
So you know, that came about. When I was in Wandsworth prison, I was I was speaking to one of the education staff and they were asking me about my experience in Thailand, and I'd write on an A4 piece of paper a description of what it was like in the cell on my first night. And I said, do us a favour, can you read this for us? And she went away and she come back the next day excited and said, look, you need to write more. I felt like I was in that cell. I could smell the smells, I could feel the fear. The senses were alive on the paper. And I thought she was like just stroking my ego and just trying to encourage me to continue. But I thought, okay, so I've got a story here, you know, from a childhood up until, you know, all the experiences I've had, and then Stallone and prison and the experiences I had there. So I started to write whilst in prison, just on paper. And then they give me an opportunity to go to education departments and type it all up on this floppy disk. Right, it was a floppy disk, there was no USBs, it was a disk. So I was typing it up, and then when I left the prison, he gave me the floppy disk. See that with you? Right, okay. Then I transferred that onto a USB, go from a USB onto print. From print I was writing to publishers in Thailand and around the world and in this country, and they were all rejecting me. And then one guy came back, Derek Sharon, from Pattaya in Thailand, and went, you know, I'll give it an advance. I think he gave me, I don't know, a couple of £100. And the book was published in Thailand, I Prayed Before Dawn, with me and my ID card on the front with that. And then he encouraged me to get it published in the UK, because it was doing so well in Thailand. And then I got a publisher called Jonathan Mooney in Dublin, in Ireland, and he got a new cover, and then it went worldwide, and then it became an international bestseller. And then I took it to a film company, got rejected many times by this company until I left it with them and got off, and then they contacted me and went, oh my God, we need to sit down and make a movie about this story of yours.
Do you think it helped you as well, like process some of the stuff that went down? Because it was quite traumatic, you know, some of the incidents that happened. Was that a good way for you to kind of process that stuff as well?
I always say this, it was the catharsis of, like, it was very therapeutic. Yeah. Because like I'd sit there, right, in my cell and tell every padmate my life story, right? And they'd be like, on the buzzer, I need to get out of here. This is like a horror movie, you know what I mean? Because the way it was like, and I was like, but the only way I could like free myself for what I'd seen. So I started like not to tell anyone. So I started to write it, and then I couldn't escape. There was something I read once, you can fool a baker and get away with a bun, but if you fool yourself, you'll end up with none, right? So I thought, well, I can't write lies about myself, because I'll only be fooling myself. I said, I had loads of fear of telling people that I became a Muslim because I'd be judged. Because on the flight coming back from Bangkok, the two screws, one of them was Mr. Moneypenny, he went, all right, Mr. Moore, what religion are you? He said, you know, because some of these Muslims in one's way are terrible, you know, can't stand them. Yes, what are you? And I went, nothing. Full of fear. Said I'm an atheist. And then on a Friday, you know, after speaking to, you know, the imam in Wandsworth in London, my door opened for Juma, Friday Juma, my skull cap, my little sarong, and Mr. Moneypenny was standing there, and he went, just shook his head, whatever, moving on. So I was afraid about what I was going to write. He was going to, you know, would I be judged by friends? My biggest fear was falling in love with a fella called Tiffany, you know, because he looked gorgeous after 6 months. And I was laughing about it because it kept me sanity intact. So wrote everything honestly as I could. Told people the truth about like the fights. Didn't make up fights and say I won every one of them. Got battered, beaten. You know, I was full of blood and I was crying. It was quite like, I think recovery had helped me with the honesty, because I knew it was an attractive quality when I used to go to meetings and hear people talk and go, I wish I was like him. I wish I had the courage to do that. So I'd done that, and then bang, that's what happened. It was quite, because of how I wrote it myself, no one wrote it for me, I actually wrote everything down. It wasn't narrated and someone, you know, didn't dictate it and someone wrote it for me. Yeah, I had control of it, you know, so yeah, it was very therapeutic.
So where did your recovery start then? So what tools were you offered at that point? So when you came out of prison, you wrote the book, right? When you was in prison. So was you attending meetings at this point? Did you?
I've been going to Narcotics Anonymous since 2005. Okay. So I had recovery under my belt. I knew there was a new way of life. I knew there was a better way of living. I just kind of went off track. Yeah. You know, and I needed sort of like a rigorous application to reinforce, you know, the fact that it could work if I applied everything that I'd been taught into this recovery program. So that's what I did. I thought, well, I had done 3 years abstinence. Now what do I need to do to maintain it and kind of like get back to meetings, start being around people who are positive, sharing honestly, and that's what I did.
Yeah. Has there been any more strategies that you've used to keep you clean and sober?
These strategies, motivators, you mean? No strategies, just like, I think, right, I've been to prison clean, right? If you can go to prison clean while you're in a cell and they say to you, avoid people, places and things. I smuggled a phone in, right, a little Zanko when I went to prison. Not for any other reason other than phoning my sponsor, right? And saying to him, look, how do I get through this without picking up? I mean, and he said to me, avoid people, places and things. Right? I said, I'm going to tell you something now, right? My girlfriend, who I was currently with at the time, has just told me it's over. I'm serving a sentence, I'm clean, I'm in recovery. My cellmate has got spice and heroin on him, right? I've got all these feelings of pain and anger and resentment and sadness going on, and the door's shut. I can't avoid the people in the cell, the places I'm in, and the things that he's got, right? So I drew on that strength of like, because I knew I couldn't go to meetings, right? The people I'm around being positive, they're all like drug induced, psychopaths, sociopaths, murderers, you name it. The whole prison was just full of like a lot of like unstable people. And then they offered me a role as a mentor. I said, would you want to, you know, deliver these groups to newcomers into the prison and give them a bit of an insight into your story, because we believe that you can, you know, you've got an opportunity to well change people's kind of view on life going forward. So yeah, and that was what I did. So giving back something that was given to me kind of helped me maintain my recovery. So that's what I do. I give freely of my time. Like now, I come here, I'm sharing with you because I know it's like, I remember the old shoes that I've got by my front door, and I can easily put them back on if I don't kind of remember where I came from, you know. So that's the strategies. I've got a couple of kids. That was never on the cards because I was diagnosed with cancer when I came out of prison. Or before I went to prison, it was just, yeah, there was a lot of crap.
Was that before you went to prison? You got diagnosed with, was it stage 3 cancer? Yeah.
So I was on chemotherapy and a lot of, I was on chemotherapy and then I was on interferon back to back. Right. You can imagine that. So it was like 12 months of intense kind of like trauma to my body with chemo. Then the interferon. I was in Cannes Film Festival with thousands of people, not a guy. And then I was downstairs snorting Subutex in the toilet, you know, and drinking champagne on the slide. And I was wearing this mask. And I was standing, you know, on the red carpet on a Friday night in this tuxedo looking like James Bond. And then on a Monday morning, right, this is in the south of France, by the way. And then on a Monday morning, I'm in Liverpool in the same tuxedo, trying to scrape a tenner together in a crack den, right? That's how the contrast of like from that, whew, straight down there. You know, I was in variety magazines. There was people. It was really odd.
It must have been a whirlwind, right, when it got made into a film, and it was Joe Cole, wasn't it, from Peaky Blinders? He starred you, didn't they? I can't even imagine. It must have been such a whirlwind.
Yeah, because he was sitting next to me right the way through the film, and we, you know, we've been friends ever since. Like, He said to me, "You're a very complex character."
Do you think that's true?
Yeah. You're very sensitive. He said, you look the part. He said, but internally you're quite sensitive as well. You know, there's a lot of things, you know.
So you got diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. You've just told me a little bit about that. So when you went to the doctors and said you haven't got cancer, how did you feel at that point?
When he told me he hadn't got it,
Yeah.
I was fuming.
You was fuming?
Right? Yeah, I'll tell you why, right? And you relate to this one, too. Being diagnosed with cancer, I think I'm going to die because it's like, it's as soon as you hear the words, you're on the chemo, you're in the hospital, I've lost loads of weight, my hair's fell out, I've gone from 16 stone to 9 stone, you know, I've spent all the money I ever had on drugs because I thought I'm going to go out with a bang here, I'm going to have a party. So I wrecked my credit cards, I lost my house, I lost my job. I spent every penny I had from the film, excuse me, and I thought I'm ready for my demise. And I sat in the oncology's room on the last day of my chemo, me finishing off my results, and he went, he's sitting down. I went, yeah. He said, I'm going to tell you now, Mr. Moore, you're going to be okay. I went, what? What do you mean I'm going to be okay? What do you mean? I said, you're joking, aren't you? Because you know what, I was so, I had this total acceptance of like, right, told everyone, everything's gone, right, that's it, it's gone. And he went, oh, you don't look too happy there. I said, you're messing, aren't you? I've got all kinds of money to pay out here, I've got sets going up here. I said, and he started to laugh and he went, do you know what's good about that? I went, what? He went, at least you're here to pay the bills. And I just broke down, I was like, he couldn't put it any way better than he did then, you know what I mean? He just took everything and I was like, you're right, you know what I mean? Which, you know, I've paid them back this time now, but yeah. That was like, I remember it, go, what the? Because it was just a shock. Yeah. You know, never believed it to be true.
Amazing. It's crazy how much you've gone through and what you've overcome. Yeah. It's just, it doesn't sound real. You've been through that much, really. So what would you say to young people who are taking their first steps, I suppose, onto the criminal path?
Onto the criminal path?
Yeah.
I'll tell you now, it's like, you definitely are not going to get a sentence like I did when I was a youth, because you could get away with, like, you know, a life sentence back then was 15 years mandatory, right? Now, if you look at the sentencing, which is quite severe now and stuff, and like conspiracies, you've got to like prove that you wasn't in one, where they have to prove that you was in one, right? And you're looking at 25, 30 years. Life sentences now, you're getting a tariff for 42 years. You know, you could have one night of madness and end up, like I say, like a lifetime of sadness, or you've either lost your life or you're going to lose your life behind prison walls. And you know, it's easy to say that to someone, you know, and I say that a lot. It's like I've been stabbed, you know, and I've had people pull knives on me, and instead of like walking away, I've like brought fists to a knife fight. Now in hindsight, I always say, if someone pulled a knife on me now, I'd run for the hills, because I was lucky to be alive. I got stabbed in the chest, and I'm here to tell a story for whatever reason. However, I'd say, look, you know, the temptation, the money might be good, the clothes, but you'd be better off working, you know, and finding some employment or a skill, you know, or doing something a little bit more creative than being some scally rat on the corner, running back and forth to prison, in and out. That's your life, and it's shit. And I can't say it any darker than that. It is absolutely. You could put yourself on the street, and I've seen it. Put yourself in a cell, and I'll watch you cry into a pillow for your mum, right? Don't care how hard you are. I've done it. Blanket over my head, sobbing. The door opens. I've got that mask on. Yeah, whatever. And there's tears hiding behind my eyes. So I know that these people, because I've been that person, I've been that pretends to be so hard and tough and, you know, on the exterior, but internally, I know, I feel, and it hurts, and it's lost, and it's easy, you know, and it's painful. So yeah, don't go to fucking prison.
You share posts with your brother quite regularly on,
He's amazing.
yeah, on social media. How has he affected your life?
He was in my way as a kid growing up. I had to take responsibility for him from an early age, and I used to resent him because I didn't understand what he was going through. He couldn't communicate with me, and I was like, I want to go out with, you know, I want to do things. I want to, you know, I can't be a kid. So I had to be like a bigger brother to him all the time. And as the autism, right? Yeah. And as the years went on, we didn't know we didn't call it autism back then. He was just handicapped. That's what it was. It's like, oh, your brother's handicapped. Oh, is he? What does that mean? You know, there's no such word as disability or autism. He was handicapped. He's just different from you, Bill. There's no education around it. But as the years went by, he'd always be there. But like I was never there or present in his life, you know. And it wasn't until I got out on my last sentence, almost 6 years ago, that I sat in that front room with him because he had to, because that's where it'd been released to my mum's address, a bungalow, and I slept on a camp bed in the living room, on the front room, with my brother, my mum, her partner, 2 dogs, you know, and I remember sitting there just scrolling through social media, looking at, like, liking someone's roast dinner in probably in Canterbury or Japan or something, you know what I mean? And he's trying to tell me about it, then going, all right, mate, in a minute, you know, come back tomorrow, you know, and it was just always dismissing him. And then he just got up one day and just walked out. And I noticed it. Where'd he go? And then he sat down and he talked to me, and it was like, wow. It was like, why hadn't the people that really matter are the ones sitting next to you, not the ones whose post or social media platform you're liking, who doesn't give a crap about you, not even concerned, not even asking how you are. And I've got a loving, caring brother who's asking about my day and about my time, are you okay? And it was only when I started to communicate with him like that I realised what I'd missed out on, you know, and I took it upon myself. I said, do you want to come with me? And he went, yeah. So I took him out with me, and we went to the boxing gym, because that's where I was going on a Saturday morning, and I took him with me, and he got involved, and then we went for walks, and then we were having jokes and laughs and arguing, because he's no different from anyone else. Start arguing, and he gets up in the morning, he's a Grinch, you know, and he's not the best, not the morning person, and he'll give it a hard time, but then he's very thoughtful and apologetic. So it was like a loving, brotherly relationship that I'd missed out on for years, and now it's just, you know, he rings me up and asks me how I am, and I ring him up and, you know, tell him I'm going to pick him up.
Is he give you some type of, like, purpose? Do you know, that kind of...
He has, he's, see, I'd done all these books and this movie and everything, and he'd always been in the background, and I thought, you know what, I wanted to involve him in my life. I'm not ashamed of him or embarrassed of him like I was when I was younger. I wanted to be a part of my life. And when he was getting bullied, I shared about it. And then a lot of people got behind him. I was like really supportive, because he wouldn't go to work on a bus because the school kids were calling him names. And he didn't tell anyone that. It was just my mum was going, why don't you go? What's going on? What's happening? And he went, no. So we got it out of him. But I recorded it on the sly. And I shared it on Twitter, and it had like 1 million views, and people were all right round him. And I was like, so it started like that, and then she started to take him, and then take him to these kids and speak to them in front of him, and have him to have the confidence and the courage. Now, he's just dead assertive. If he doesn't want to go anywhere, he'll say no. Whereas before he was a people pleaser, yeah, okay, yeah. Now he goes, no, I'm all right. You know what I mean? Sometimes I feel a bit of rejection from him, but that's all right. But yeah, I'd say, yeah, he's given me a lot of purpose. You know, yeah, I think without him, it's like a worry for him, because my mum's getting on and she's been a sole carer for years. You know, so I think he's 45 now. I'm at an age where I'm a few years older, and I think to myself, you know, I've got to be there for him when my mum's, you know, unable to be there. So there's a lot that I don't like to think about. However, it's important to think about it.
Yeah.
You know.
And you've built that relationship up now, haven't you?
Yeah,
It's beautiful what you two have got from what I can see on, you know, on the social media posts.
I wouldn't like to have to do something and not have that relationship, because it'd be really awkward for him, me, and everyone else. You know. Yeah.
And that's really beautiful. What do you think is the biggest misconception people have about those who are experiencing difficulties with addiction?
I think the labels they put on them, right, a heroin addict, right, is like quite polite. So I've walked down the street and I hear people smackhead, crackhead, junkie, scumbag, and I think, you know what? No, there's just some poor spirited soul. That's someone's daughter, someone's son, someone's family member. You know, they didn't wake up and like sign up for this life. You know, something's contributed to the way they are. I spend a lot of time with people who are homeless, and I can relate and identify and sit down with it because I've used with most of them. So when people comment on my video, go, "How could you do that with these homeless people?" Hang on, I don't. They're not different. The fact that you're saying that is like we are on equal terms. How are you, Bill? You know, and I'll if they need money and I've got it, I'll give it to them. Not because, oh, you're enabling them. I go, fuck off with all that, mate. I'm not interested, right? I know what it's like when you're down and you've got nothing and you need something, right? No matter how small it is, it's like it helps. So I think there's I think some people, the people that do call addicts those horrible names, don't realise what they've been through, and that they're doing things that they don't want to do, and they're going to places that they don't want to go, and you know, it says a lot about the person that's going, whatever, look at all that, know what I mean? Smackheads. I've heard it. Like, it's not nice. No, it's derogatory.
Yeah, nobody when they're a kid is thinking to themselves, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be an addict. Like, that's just not how it is, you know?
I still get called it, you know. I still get called a smackhead.
Really?
Yeah, not regular, not only by people who hide behind screens.
It's not nice. What do you think the biggest takeaway you hope listeners can learn from this podcast today?
The biggest takeaway? It's, I'd say it was always about like thinking about where your life could end up, right? So you've just listened to my story, right? And I didn't wake up and, like I said, I'd never in a million years think that was going to happen. But but what was what I'd say to take away from this is, you know, think about the decisions in your life that you're going to make, because we make a lot of poor decisions and poor choices. You know, think about what your predecessors are going to say to you. Listen to you. You know, it's easy to say now than back then. You know, in hindsight, but you know, listen to your family members. Or your elders, in a sense, people who are older and more experienced in life. And you may go far, you know, but you're going to learn by your own mistakes.
Yeah, that's totally right. What about if people haven't got any family?
People who haven't got any family, then it's like, find someone that you can trust. I always say that, you know, when I do like a little share on about addiction, and I say reach out, because reaching out is like a step in your recovery. It's halfway there. No one's going to pull up in a car and go, there he is, he's struggling, come on lad, we'll help you. It doesn't work like that. You've got to meet people halfway. You know, if you apply what you did into your addiction, into your getting clean, then you're going to be all right. So then some people might come and go, well, I haven't got no one. I'll go, well, okay, so find a service that can provide something that'll benefit you. There is always someone, that faith and that belief that there's someone out there that will help you. And I do believe that. Yeah. You know, because someone helped me, and I was unhelpable.
And now look at you.
Yeah. The last on this, I'll finish on this, right? I was in a rehab many years ago called Barleywood, right, in Ringston in Bristol, first one ever. When I was 30, and I remember going in and I heard this lad who had been to prison would go to his mate, "Fucking there's Billy Moore there, wow, he's not going to make it in, you know," right? I heard it, right, and I thought, fucking hell, you know what I mean? He's not going to. I heard that and I thought, that's what people thought of me. He's not going to make this. Nah, he'll be back out there then. You know, so if I can get through that and I can go through all this and come out the other side, then anyone can. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. Where can people find you, Billy? What social platforms?
Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all the social platforms, the usuals really.
Okay.
Just Google my name and it'll be there.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you for inviting me.